So here's a question for you. Do you think it's possible to lose weight without changing what you eat? It may sound too good to be true, but when you put certain non-food habits into place, the weight loss results can be quite remarkable. So today we're sharing 5 specific impactful habits that have given our clients the best results. So stay tuned. For the best wellness and weight loss advice for women over 50, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to be notified when we post a new video. We can almost see your eyebrows raised with skepticism, but we can promise you these simple habit changes will make a huge difference. We've seen this time and time again with our clients, and in fact, it's often the first thing we work with before we even start talking about the food. We consider these really foundational strategies, and they're key to long-term success. If you think about them like building a house, you have to lay the foundation first before building the rest of the home. And the best part is you can use them throughout your life to help support your weight and your overall health. And by the way, number 5 is the most powerful, so be sure to stay on till the end. And hey, if you are looking for more tips on ways to amp up your energy and metabolism after 50, we'll share our free guide with 10 ways to do so in the link below. Okay, so let's start with the first habit change. And we think it's a super easy one. So switch to smaller plates. Did you know that over the past 50 years, our plates have gotten so much larger? And years ago, supersized servings were not even a thing. It's actually a relatively recent phenomenon. Inevitably, as the size of our plates have gotten bigger, so has the amount of food that we put on them. And studies have shown that larger plates can and do cause us to eat more. And that's because the plates are actually make the food portion look smaller. Research also shows that if you take a medium-sized hamburger and serve it to people on, say, a saucer, they estimate that it has more calories than if you serve it to them on a normal-sized plate. And the same thing is true with desserts. When presented on a large plate, people underestimate the calories in a piece of a pie or a cake compared to when it's presented on a smaller plate. So move toward using smaller plates and see not only how your portion perception changes, but if your overall food intake goes down as well. You could switch to just the salad size plate that comes with your dishes and give that a try.
So I actually started putting this small plates strategy into action a couple of years ago. And at first, Mark, my husband, and my 2 stepkids who were still home, they kind of teased me a little bit because mom would always have the smaller plate. But I have to say, it made such a huge difference. Everybody's used to it now. And in fact, occasionally one of my stepkids takes a smaller plate too, which I noticed recently was kind of cool. But the point is that what I noticed was that it allows me to take the chance to stop and check my fullness before going back for more food, if in fact I even do need more food. And most of the time, I don't need seconds. It's just the perceived amount of food on the plate is bigger. I stuff it with a lot of vegetables. I take my time and eat slower, and have just noticed that often after that first plate, I don't need to go back for any more. If I do, I employ the 20% rule. Stephanie and I have talked about this before, where you just fill your plate 10 or 20% more max, and then you can finish that and then see if you still feel like you need more. And I will say most of the time I don't need more. At the occasional time I do go back for an extra spoon or 2. When you're more intentional about the size of your plates and your portions, you're putting yourself in control. You're jumping in the driver's seat, and you're being empowered about your choices and how much food you're going to eat. And having the smaller plate, it's just a great tool in order to do that, and puts a stopgap in place. It also kind of wipes out that whole clean your plate problem, where people feel like when they have food on their plate, it's almost impossible to not finish everything. But if you have less food on your plate, it becomes less of an issue. And then again, if you're still hungry, you can always go back for more. Just take a little bit more. And then again, if you clean your plate, it's not that big a deal. So really, really think about this strategy and how powerful it can be for you and empowering. Okay, our second non-food strategy is to stop eating 3 hours before you go to sleep. So the question we have for you is, how often are you really, really hungry at night when you find yourself reaching for food? So we know that it's really common to like have dessert after dinner or an hour or two after dinner, or you just find yourself with a bowl of popcorn or some pretzels or chips or something when you're sitting down and watching TV and relaxing at night. Or maybe you find yourself wandering into the kitchen and grabbing something just because it's there, or you have a craving or you have some kind of emotional need to fill. So first of all, we want to separate true hunger from just wanting something. Ask yourself, though, give yourself the opportunity to check and say, is what I'm feeling hunger or habit? Or can I even fall asleep with this feeling? Or is it going to keep me up? So most of the time, we see nighttime snacking as one of the major obstacles that our clients face that prevent them from losing weight. And 95% of the time we'll say it's not true physical hunger, but it's just a mindless habit that they've fallen into. So we suggest taking a sticky note, putting it on the fridge, and having the phrase, is this hunger or habit? And that little short mantra can just kind of put a stopgap and bring some awareness to the activity and make you think twice about whether or not to engage with eating. Again, if it's real hunger, have a snack, have something small so that you can fall asleep, and that's totally fine. So another good strategy is to employ a 12-hour fast from dinner to breakfast. And we found that once people have this rule in place, it takes out that battle or decision-making kind of fatigue thing where should I have something, shouldn't I have something? And it's kind of like, no, I fast from dinner to breakfast. And it just sort of makes it a little easier and simpler to like make that decision not to have something. Overnight fasts are just a really effective tool for wiping out those non-essential calories and giving our bodies a wonderful overnight period of rest and rejuvenation. And of course, if you want to take that a step further, you can look into intermittent fasting. We have a whole video on that, which we can link to in the description. So, like I said before, it's okay to break this rule once in a while. Nothing needs to be 100% all the time. That is always our recommendation, or just our philosophy, is that nobody needs to be perfect. If you find yourself snacking one night and you weren't hungry, there's no beating yourself up. But if snacking is getting in the way of your weight loss, then it's a habit change that's going to really, really benefit you. And we know it's not an easy fix. We know this is a tough one to put into practice. It takes a little bit of discipline. And again, it's also a good time to think about what else you can do. If it is habit that's driving you, can I just have a cup of tea? Can I doodle? Can I knit? Can I just distract myself somehow from the eating process so that I can start putting in a new habit instead of always turning to food?
Moving on to number 3 is curb your picking. Another common habit we see, and we're guilty here too sometimes, and it's picking at food throughout the day. Again, walking into the kitchen, grabbing a bite of something that might have been left out by another family member, or if you're preparing food for somebody else, you just tend to grab and eat and like, wow, you're not even paying attention. So when we have clients track their food intake, including their picking, they are amazed at the amount of food intake they have just from this. So really, the first step to curb the food picking is just to become aware of how often you're doing it and how much you're eating when you do. And then after that, you can work on cutting back on it. So just like the nighttime question, ask yourself, am I eating out of hunger, or is this a habit that I'm just used to grabbing and tasting things as I'm doing something else? So you really want to take stock and check on yourself and see how often this is happening for you. Next, number 4 is focus on chewing and tasting your food. So have you ever counted your chews? Most of us don't. We eat pretty quickly, and also while we're doing so many other things, right? You're on the computer or the phone, you're reading the newspaper if you get one anymore, or whatever else you're focusing on other than the food. When did it become the norm to do a million other things while we eat? If we're distracted, we cannot pay attention to the actual meal in front of us. We don't know how much we're eating, We're not chewing and not tasting it. And really, you're missing out on this great food. And when you chew more, not only are you going to improve your digestion, which chewing is a key to digestion, it's also going to help with weight loss because it's going to create kind of an automatic delay factor into the meal. Your body doesn't figure out it's full until after about a 20-minute lag. So the longer you chew, the longer it takes to eat, causing you to eat less in a 20-minute time frame. Prolonged chewing is a great way to prevent dangerous overeating. Overeating is so unhealthy, and of course it leads to weight gain, but it's just too stressful for the body. In addition, how many times, think about it, have you finished a meal and don't even remember eating it? Like, wait, how did that taste? Did I really eat it all? It's gone, like my plate's empty. I've had it happen to me, and I know it's so frustrating. But if your brain doesn't know that you ate, you're more likely to be looking for more food pretty soon. And when you slow down, chew well, and focus on the meal instead of everything else around you, well, most likely you're going to feel more satisfied with the lesser amount and not need to go back too soon for more food. So give it a try. Even we like to tell clients, try to count how many times you are chewing your food and then up it by 5 or 10 more chews, and it will make a huge difference.
Okay, let's dive into strategy number 5, which is something athletes use, motivational speakers, actors, and that is to incorporate visualization. So according to research using brain imagery, visualization works because neurons in our brains interpret visual imagery as equivalent to real life action. So think about that. Visual imagery is equivalent to real life action. And that's because when we visualize something, the brain generates an impulse that tells our neurons to perform the movement, even though we're not physically performing it. So that in turn creates a brand new neural pathway that primes the body to act in a way consistent with what we're visualizing. And again, all of this occurs without actually performing the physical activity, but it can achieve a very similar result. So we're going to give you an example of how we use this to teach healthier eating habits from a real life client. And we've used this in so many different instances, but this is one of our favorite client stories. So we're going to call her Alyssa. So Alyssa came to us, and one of the things that used to trip her up all the time was that she couldn't go to the movies without eating a big bowl of buttery popcorn. So she was going to the movies every week and sabotaging herself by eating all this movie theater popcorn. She would say on the way, she would say, please don't eat the pop. She'd try to talk herself into not doing it. Okay. And inevitably, once she got to the movie theater, she would smell the popcorn. That would trigger her, and she would go over to the concession stand and buy some. So what we taught her to do was incorporate visualization. And the way that we did this was prior to going to the movie theater throughout the week, she was to picture herself walking into the movie theater, smelling the popcorn, and walking past it. Buying her ticket, going in, sitting down, picturing herself in the movie theater, watching the movie, just having her hands resting on her lap and enjoying the movie, walking out of the movie, driving home, getting back to her house, feeling so amazing that she didn't engage with the popcorn, feeling nice and light, going to sleep without a full stomach, and waking up the next morning and feeling amazing. We said to her, Alyssa, just do this. Visualize this act over and over again, that you are successful walking to the theater, picture everything that normally happens except that you don't buy the popcorn. So lo and behold, a couple weeks later, she came back and said she put this into practice, and she was able to go into the theater for the first time without buying the popcorn because she had done it in her mind probably 50 times with success. That's the power of visualization. It is so empowering. Again, you feel the success, you walk it through, and you can accomplish almost anything by doing it this way. The best part is once you master this practice, you can apply it to so many other areas of your life, other obstacles that you're facing, whether it's food or otherwise, and empower yourself. So again, instead of thinking negatively, like, I hope I don't do this, I hope I don't do this, you're visualizing something that does happen successfully. It's a completely other lens to look at it through, and you can get so much success from that.
So take a few minutes to think about a specific challenge you have around eating. What visualization could you put into place to help you achieve more success around this challenge? So there you have it, our 5 habit changes without even changing the food. What do you think? Which of these 5 non-food habit changes will you start putting into practice? Even making one of these changes will begin bringing you surprising results. And once you get one of them down, then you can move on to another one. If you enjoyed the information we shared today, be sure to like and also subscribe to our channel and click the bell so you can make sure you get all of our future videos. And check out our next video for even more support on managing weight and health after 50.